Quick little disclaimer before the video starts. We originally recorded the audio for this in late February, but I hadn't had the chance to edit it until around late April. Because of that, in between those couple of months, Beth and Steve have already released a video on the Garden of Earthly Delights, and I highly encourage anyone watching this to go check out their video first. They're actual art historians and have degrees and stuff, and aren't just two random high school kids on top of a mountain. So, link will be in the description below, and thank you for clicking on video. We're sitting here on top of a mountain looking at the Garden of Earthly Desire by Hieronymus Bosch.
What we're seeing is an almost 7 by 13 foot long oil wood triptych depicting the story of Genesis, painted around 1490 to 1510, right around the middle of the Northern Renaissance. It was presumably made for the House of Anjou as a commission for their palace.
Looking at the closed exterior, we can see the beginning chapters of Genesis with the creation of the earth. We see these rolling clouds and barren land filled with all types of strange structure inscribed in the sphere. I'm particularly taken aback at how Bosch manages to fill the land with these shapes that don't appear to be anything and yet feel so familiar. It creates this uncanny effect.
Right, and this depiction of an organic manner that feels alien can be seen throughout the entire piece. Opening it up, we see 3 distinct scenes of Eden, of earth, and of hell.
Looking at the foremost left panel and working our way up, we see Adam, Eve, and God. God is presenting the newly created Eve to Adam, giving his blessing to the two. In Eden, we see all the animals and trees that God has created. Our eyes wander around the work, jumping from animal to animal as we progress up.
The interesting thing about these animals is that for us, the idea of a giraffe or elephant is nothing new. But to the people of the 15th century Netherlands, these were strange and exotic creatures. Bosch most likely never actually saw them in person. Rather, he probably got his image of them from travel journals and books at the time.
We still see these organic structures. As with many Northern Renaissance works, the piece is filled with small details. We see small ducks swimming, animals playing together, and these trails of birds in the background. These types of works were meant to be looked at again and again, with one's appreciation growing with each viewing. As we move to the middle panel, the so-called Garden of Earthly Desires, we see a multitude of people and animals all throughout the panel. Starting at the bottom, we see people engaging in erotic acts with fruit and clams being strewn about. These were often symbolic of desire and lust.
Everyone is in motion, and this movement adds to the chaotic feeling in the piece, especially as we move up to the middle. Those organic buildings are now less uniform and symmetrical. We can see these bits of blue mixing with the pink and more of these jagged spikes placed throughout. Looking at the panel art together, we see that it actually connects with the previous panel. Looking at the background, we see how the mountains and hills roll into each other. The general interpretation of this is that it shows the life lived without consequence. The entire panel is filled with people partaking in hedonistic actions.
And we see the consequences of that hedonism in the next panel. Looking at the right, let's start from the top this time. We see this city covered in darkness and smoke, with the only lights coming from the fires on top of the buildings. We can faintly see the figures of an invading army advancing on the city, bringing with it the horrors of war. Moving down, we begin to see scenes that can only be described as cursed and unsettling. At the center, we see the giant, hollowed torso of a man. His legs or arms or what have you seem to have turned into a rigid bark or stone. All around, strange and painful punishments can be seen.
Serving as a human stool, being eaten alive by giant rats, or being impaled through the belly.
Going all the way down, we see the people being terrorized by all sorts of demons and animals. We see them being eaten and decapitated, with even a pig encroaching upon this man, albeit in a slightly humorous punishment for lust.
Looking at the entire work as a whole, it becomes obvious that it's a didactic piece, showing the fall of man and the consequences of sin. But what makes this piece more interesting is its place in the greater historical context at the time. Early in Dutch works like Robert Kempen's Annunciation triptych or Van Eyck's Arnolfini portrait, we see a focus on more humanly and earthly pleasures.
Both pieces showing the material wealth and pleasantries of the era.
And even in a work like Durer's Adam and Eve, they are drawn in a humanistic way, relating man back to perfection. But looking just a half-decade in the future, Grunwald's Isenheim altarpiece shows a disgustingness of the human world, with his depiction of the mutilated body of Christ. Though this work was created before the Martin Luther's 95 Theses, before the beginnings of Mannerism, we can still see that pendulum-like swing from humanism to scholasticism, a swing that can be seen throughout all of art, from the Dionysian to the Apollonian.
Peter Bruegel the Elder would cite Bosch as a major inspiration to him, and that's evident in the small details in his work. It's interesting to think about the development of art as a reflection on how people viewed their place in the universe.
And it's true. Art has always been a mirror, giving us a glimpse into the history of man. Man, I should treat myself to dinner tonight. I should! There's nobody at my house. Oh my gosh. But it's expensive, but never mind.
Treat yourself to dinner?
Yeah.
You get yourself instant ramen and put 1 egg in it. That's a luxury nowadays.
True, but I low-key want wings. Have you ever ate Wingstop?
I don't eat.
Or being impaled through the belly.
Going all the way down. do you say impaled instead of impelled?
Wait, oh, impaled?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
We will keep that take, and you will just be known as the impaled girl.
Stop!